Hi,
Hola,
everyone.
everyone.
Welcome back once again to one of our episodes for our podcast Expresa tu Verdad.
Expresa tu verdad, which is express your truth.
Yes, exactly. And today we are with a new friend of us, James. Thank you for being here. I thought it would be harder to convince him to do the podcast, but surprisingly, he said yes very quick. So
Yes.
we are very
We
excited.
have a power to convince and persuade people.
So yeah, he's here today, and we wanted to have a chat with him because we know he has done some inner work. He knows a lot about self growth. He knows about Enneagrams, a little bit of numerology. He went to a famous cruise as well, and he listened to a person doing some channeling. He went on the stage. He asked a few questions, so we were very curious about the experience that he has with all of this. So thank you for being here, James.
You're welcome. I'm honored to be here. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you. I just want to say that it's amazing that sometimes we think that the inner growth and all of this is more for
women.
women, and I find sometimes difficult to relate to talk about this topic with men, with guys, and it's amazing that we found you and that you are in the same kind of path of inner growth and knowing yourself better. So thank you for that.
And doing things different is actually our second male guest because the first one was in Spanish. Gabriel Valle. So happy to have you
The
here.
first Aussie.
The first Aussie,
Yes.
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 So will you tell us a little bit of your story? How do you start with what make you take this path of self-knowledge and personal growth?
Where do I start? So many different places to begin. How far back do you want me to go?
As much as you
As
want.
much.
Yeah. Whatever you
Sure.
think is gonna be helpful for the people that is listening.
You know, I was very blessed with parents who had done a little bit of work themselves in different ways as well. And so they passed that on. That's where it first began. My dad gave me a book that was How to Win Friends and Influence People. Very famous book.
My dad recommended me that book and I didn't read it.
That's the sign that you need.
So think of little things like that. You know, I've been surrounded by it my whole life. And so, and then the next big step was in one of my early jobs, somebody prospected me for a multi-level marketing. And part of that system was the books and the tapes and the seminars. And so it was all about the learning of self-growth in order to become the person you wanted to be successful in the business.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah. And so there's a lot of different varieties of speakers that were, self-improvement.
When you started your business or
this was Amway. You've probably heard of Amway.
Yeah.
It's very large, American-based multi-level marketing.
Yeah.
And it's the support system behind that was so influential. The product is great, it's fine, but I didn't do much with that. What I got was the self-improvement.
Okay, and what made you keep going on with this? And also, this takes me to the second question: how this inner work has influence in your environment, like your family, your friends, and your business.
You know, it's come in many different ways over the years, depending on the context that I've been in at the moment. You know, when I was young as a child, I'm reading these books. I was always wanting to get to the next step, the next level, next stage. And so when I was a mechanic, I was probably the only mechanic who on the break was reading the How to Win Friends and Influence People, Think and Grow Rich, all this stuff in the break, then fix the cars and then go back.
The different one that doesn't fit like us.
The outcasts.
Yeah, I was definitely the outcast for sure. And so it just means that maybe I'm not the right fit for that world, but I was preparing for the next thing. And I'm always preparing for the next thing somehow with a different learning, And so the context, I think, is the time of life. And, whether it's work, a lot of it has been work for me. I'm very business focused, very focused on growing and learning about business and marketing and sales and that kind of thing. And so a lot of the early work was just around sales and business and reading all those books, self-improvement at that level.
Mm-hmm.
And that got me through from mechanic into real estate,
Mm-hmm.
and then real estate into business. And then my life turned upside down. I had a couple of different big shifts in life where some of it was emotional challenge. I was going through some tough periods,
Mm-hmm.
and other times it was relationships or business itself.
Mm-hmm.
And then I kept on hitting this wall. It's like an invisible ceiling. I'm trying to push and grow and push and grow and push.
Yeah.
I could not get through this invisible ceiling.
Yeah.
And so the way that manifested in business was I was hiring sales team. And I would hire a sales team, and either I would fire them or they would fire me. And so I hire one, they crash to the ground, and then I would hire another one, another sales team, and they would crash. And then third time round, I went, there's something here that's not quite right, and it's probably not them, it's probably me.
Yeah. That is the
Yeah.
self-realization, auto-realization that something has to change, and it's me. No.
Yeah, but
Certain.
not many people get to that conclusion. Everyone keeps just the pattern of blaming other people.
Yeah. I tried that for a long time. It just didn't seem to make any difference.
Me too.
And so I decided that I was going to change the business, and I was going to go on a journey and find out what it was I didn't know. I've been doing so many different trainings and coachings and business people trying to mentor me that none of it was all different. It was all had its own benefits, but nothing made the change I wanted to see happen. And so I just stopped everything. I let the sales team go, and I just come back to me as listing and selling. And then I had a property management business that was growing up beside me, kept that going. And I just slowed down. And I went off, I had 3 different occasions where there was a mention of neuro-linguistic programming and NLP. And I'd come across it in many of the sales books from early on. And I tried to hire a guy that was a sales guy. And his claim to fame was that he had a doctorate of NLP. I thought that's amazing. He's a really good sales guy. He's very good at what he did. And then it's come up a third time. I went, I've got to find out more about this. And so I went on this, what I thought was going to be mostly about marketing. It was sort of billed as a lot about marketing. I was going to go and use this neuro-linguistic programming in my marketing for my business. And that would get me the breakthrough, right? So I go to Sydney for a week, and it turns out that, you learn some stuff about language and marketing for sure. But they also do a lot of emotional healing work.
It's crazy. It's the key. It's the key.
And so the version that they used was called timeline therapy.
Okay.
Timeline.
And what is that about?
It's a way of going back into the past to the root cause, the event that first caused the anger or the sadness or the fear or the hurt.
That's the coaching that I learned. Yeah.
If you can go back to that and learn something about that we make, a lot of it happens in our childhood, right? We make these decisions at a young age, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we're making decisions based on what we know at that age. And maybe, dad smacked us on the bottom, and we make a decision out of whatever happened in that context about the meaning of dad or the meaning of love or the meaning of work or the meaning of the thing that we were doing at the time. But it's based on what we knew as a 6-year-old.
Yeah.
And so if we can find out, 30, 40 years later, what that thing was, go back to that time and view it with our current wisdom and knowledge and life experience,
it's amazing.
We get a new understanding, a new learning about what that was. And oftentimes, just that process of the new learning and understanding allows the emotion to evaporate from that experience. And then all of the subsequent emotion held in similar lines right throughout the history evaporates.
Yeah.
And so all that baggage that we've accumulated over the years goes like that.
Yeah, it's
That's
great.
Amazing.
And like what was the first, not the biggest, but the first one, the first breakthrough that you were like, wow, wow, I didn't know that this belief that I'm carrying from my childhood that was in my subconscious was affecting me in this particular area in my life. What was that the first thing that you were, wow?
You know, I was not born here in Australia. I was born in America,
Yeah.
and my dad was American. My mum was Australian, and mum wanted to bring us back to Australia for me to raise me in this country. And so I was 5 years old, and I had a little American accent. And so I came to this country. And back in the early 80s, it was a different vibe, it was a different culture, it was a different scene. It was much more Ocker Aussie environment. And the Yanks were the Yanks. And so there was this difference of culture, even at that young age. It's certainly the way I felt it anyway. And so I felt as though I was being teased and hardly done by and victimized, all this stuff,
All the stuff.
because I had an accent.
Yeah.
And I remember even I was interviewing for grade one. You go into the principal's office with mum, and we let my child go to school here. And he looks at me, looks at my mother, and he says, "I'm not sure he's tough enough."
Oh. But here is not to blame teachers. No, not at all. But yeah, this is how bad these
these are
little
the-
things affected us.
Right? This is what forms part of our experience as a young person. And so I grew up in this country for the next, 15, 20 years, thinking that I was an American in the wrong country.
For how many years?
20 years.
Shit.
Because the thing that shifted that was travel. So I went back to America for the first time when I was 26. So I grew up my entire life here, never went on holidays, outside the country.
Yeah.
And for the first time when I was 26, I took my wife and my 6-month-old baby to visit my brother and sister in America. And I drove around, landed in LAX, and we drove out to where they live. And I went, oh, this is not the same. All the street signs are different. It's Mexican-based language, not Aboriginal words. This is not my home. I'm not American. I'm Australian. And so that's what it was like. It was the breakthrough that I went, oh, okay. Where you grow up is where you're really from.
Where you're from.
Yeah, not necessarily where you're born. And so I think the same template or the same pattern can often apply to people maybe who they're adopted, or they're not with their birth parents. Because just because you might have a biological parent doesn't necessarily mean that they are your loved parent.
And the same for
even like me,
immigrants.
because I remember I told you many times I had like an identity crisis for many years, because I moved from Colombia and I stayed in Spain for so many years. And when I came here, people asked me like, "Oh, where are you from?" And I was like, "I am Colombian." But you don't speak like a Colombian, not even in English. Your accent is different. So it took me like an identity crisis, and I was like, okay, if I say I am Colombian, people don't believe me because I don't sound Colombian. But if I said I am Spanish, I don't have the Spanish accent either. So it took me a few years just to get the balance.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
guess for all the immigrants as well, we have this homesick thing that we kind of lose contact or that touch of feeling at home, but home is currently where we are. So yes, but coming back to what you said, so when the teacher told you that you were not tough enough, how that impact in your
I was never good enough. That it's the whole
That's the
core
limiting
belief,
belief.
right?
Yeah.
The limiting. I'm not good enough, and so therefore I must learn to be better. I must figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
And so the positive upside of my learning thing was that I had to figure it out. So even now today, I'm a problem solver. I have to figure it out. I have to figure out how to blend in with the culture or the friends or the school or the work or the business. I have to figure out the problem. I have to figure out how to solve it, how to fix it. Very male thing too. We always have to fix it, right? But everywhere, many people don't though. I know they say that men are always trying to fix the problem, but many people, they don't. They rather just sit there and whinge about it or...
Yeah, that's why we think it's important just to talk about all those things, because everything that we do today as an adult has the roof in our childhood. So that's why it's painful going back to that moment, but it helped us all to go there. And well, you mentioned about the
Therapy, yeah.
timeline therapy. What about the Enneagrams? How do you discover Enneagrams? Because we know a little bit about that, but like just a tiny bit. And last weekend we were having a good conversation with another friend who went to Colombia, and he did the whole retreat about the Enneagrams, and he was very excited telling us about that. But how was that for you? Can you just tell us a little bit what it is? And
I had never really heard of it. I had heard the word mentioned a couple of times throughout different courses and that sort of thing. I didn't really understand what it was. The way it was described wasn't great. And then I met a beautiful little baby angel who brought it into my life, and she brought me an online course. It was a Udemy course, and so I deep dove into that. I do the little course, I learn a little bit about it, then I read some books, talk to people about it, and between us, we started profiling ourselves, profiling my kids, my friends, family, all that stuff. And by utilizing it and trying to learn more about it, you see the patterns. Yeah. I think a lot of this comes back to pattern awareness, that whether it's personalities or whether it's actions in business or life or relationships, it's just patterns of behavior. Mm-hmm. And from the Enneagram perspective, they talk about it being the nature side, not the nurture, not the environment, but the intrinsic, what we're born with. They believe that we're born with this pattern of personality style that they break into 9 parts of the Enneagram. And we all have all 9, mm-hmm. but we are predominantly 1 for most of our life. They would say all of our life. I'm a believer that with the more experiences we have and the more work we do on ourselves, we probably start pushing that out further to become more well-rounded, more balanced, and become able to activate the different numbers, different styles more easily. Whereas people who don't do the work or haven't really pushed or tried, they will stay very much stuck in one quadrant, one area, and happily so perhaps, and that's fine too. That's part of their journey, which is fine. But yeah, have you experienced the different styles? Do you understand the basics of the?
Well, the basics. I know mine. I know mine, and after having the conversation with Carlos last weekend, because he's the same type as I am, it was very like, so many people, like, he knows a lot about me, that even more than myself until that point.
And what's yours?
So they classify me as a 7.
They classify
so
me.
I feel like I've got to be in a little box.
Yeah. I don't like that much, to be honest. Well, it's good, like, you get to know yourself better, but I don't.
It's based on the idea of that we derive a lot of our behaviors from our passion. And passion, the way they talk about it, isn't like art is our passion. It's passion being like the negative virtue. So if a virtue is the positive side of something good we are, like trust or something like that, the passion would be the negative virtue. So there's the 7 deadly sins.
No.
The 7 deadly sins. There was a movie with Brad Pitt.
You didn't watch it? Because she's super into movies. I'm like, what's happening?
No, not that one.
Yeah, it's a very very well-known old-fashioned thing of the 7 deadly sins, very much in the religious circles. There used to be 9, and that was the 9 of the Enneagram, and they condensed it somewhere down to 7. So, for example, mine is gluttony. Is gluttony in terms of I want more. I always want more, and so. In the negative side,
it's not enough.
Never enough, right? I want more and more and more. More fun, more excitement, more adventure, more and more and more. And that's why I love caffeine and coffee, because it gives me brightness and energy to have more and more and more.
Yeah.
And so within reason, it's all okay. But when you go to the extreme, then you could become an addict to the caffeine or the cocaine or the drugs or the mushrooms or the anything. You go too far, too deep, too much. So the gluttony is my sin.
Yeah, I guess for every pattern, every belief, there is the good and the not so good or the bad side, yin and yang. And if, like as you said previously, many of those beliefs help you into business and into maybe relationships and things like that, but sometimes it doesn't. And that is why it's so important to get to know ourselves better, to play the game better, like once we know how we are, we can say, oh, okay, as you said, I need to balance this.
That's why it wasn't just the labels of the 9, which make it really easy to understand, because number 1 is like perfectionist. People go, oh, well, that's very simple. Yeah. Number 2 is like the supporter, carer role. Number 3 is the achiever. Number 4 is the individual. Number 5 is kind of like the data guy, like Bill Gates, something like that. Number 6 is the skeptic. Number 7 is the adventurer. Number 8 is like the business guy, the black and white leader guy. Number 9 is the mediator, the middleman. For a long time, I thought I was that.
Oh, really?
Because I'm a real estate agent. I'm the middleman. That's why I find it so easy to be in the middle.
Your ego identified with the profession that you had at that time.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was interesting. And then I learned about the subtypes. And so
it goes deeper and deeper.
Yes. And so it doesn't matter which of the 9 you might be predominantly, you'll be one of the same 3 subtypes, which might be self-preservation. And this comes from the first instinct. If something happens, what is your first instinct? Is it survival, to preserve the self, to cower in and protect the self? Or is it to protect yourself by being with others, by being with the group, by being with the community? That would be the social element. And some people gravitate towards that as an instinctual basis. The third is the one-on-one. They often call it the sexual type, because it's one-on-one, only one-on-one. And I think that is my type. I've always been much better one-on-one with someone than with a group. I can enjoy being with groups for sure, but as an instinct, straight to one. Yeah.
Interesting. Is it easy for you now when you start having a conversation with someone? After a few minutes, it's like, this person is.
You start overanalyzing.
Because the 7 is the head-based one. It's the intellectual type. Always thinking, always analyzing, and so that is part of the thing. I'm not the feeling type. So you're a feeling type. You'll get a feeling in your body somewhere of what's going on, an emotion or something like that, right? That comes second for me. First is the brain. I always answer. I don't go, I'm feeling like. I always answer, I think it should be. I think it is. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Nice. I might need to do it. I know that
I sent you the link.
But yeah, it's like there are so many tools for knowing yourself and to inner grow and all of this. But yeah, I might do it.
All of them have their use and their time,
Yeah. And I would like to jump to this next question. I heard that you have done some of the Joe Dispenza work and teachings. How do you apply this in your life? I love Joe Dispenza because he's, I don't know if he's a doctor or he has a PhD, but anyway, he explains everything like the spirituality and inner growth in scientific terms.
Yeah.
And because I'm also, my basis in science, I resonate a lot with his teachings. So how do you apply them?
Yeah. So I came across Dr. Joe through word of mouth. Different friends mentioned the name, and so I searched him on YouTube and look him up, right? And I did not resonate at all,
No?
Oh,
really?
because I come from a background of sales, and I understand language patterns, and I understand hypnosis. And he uses hypnotic language patterns a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of big words, meta vocabulary that is non-specific. And so I just want to know what you're talking about, mate. I want the detail. What's the topic? What's the answer? How do I fix it? What's the problem? and that's not the way he operates. And so I found it very frustrating with his videos on YouTube because I didn't really understand what he was trying to get at. And then I came across somebody who gifted me access to his entire meditation series.
Wow.
And they recommended the blessings of the energy centers. And that's when he comes into his own, because that's where the hypnotic language patterns are at their best, is to get you into a meditative, quiet, peaceful, calm, relaxed state. That's the purpose of his language. And he can take you into a beautiful, deep meditative state very easily, very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And so from that, to answer your question, that's what I use it for, is to be able to go into a state of, and bring up new energy, to refresh the energy levels quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, did you notice any shift since you started to do it more often in your life?
Oh yeah, definitely. I can tell when I haven't done it often enough.
Okay.
Because it's a little bit for me like when I haven't been surfing for a while. I start to get the shivers, not from lack of alcohol, from lack of waves.
I didn't know you
just
surf.
symptoms.
That's good.
There's certain things that help bring you back to peace.
Yeah.
And nature is often, some version of that. But also meditation is a very quick way to get back to yourself. And if I don't do that very frequently, then I'm not as centered, not as focused. I'm more scattered. I'm more all over the place.
Yeah, that's true.
Same. Yeah, I many people that I talk, they said, no, my meditation is my running, my swimming, my surfing. Fair enough. I know that you can quite disconnect, unplug your overthinking mind and enjoy the present moment. But meditation, you go deeper, and you actually connect with your true self, and the more than you do, the better it gets.
What I haven't seen much of out there, which might be useful for your listeners, is some of the physical steps. What are the physical behaviors that you can do to help get into the state of meditation? And one of the things that the good meditation, like Dr. Joe, when he does the meditation, he's talking about the space between, right? So when he uses that word space quite a lot in his meditation practice, because he doesn't want you to focus on the thing. He wants you to focus on the space around the thing. What does that do? It takes you from a focus on something single to a wide approach visually. And so one of the things you can do physically that mimics the same thing is if you were to look at one thing and notice, like you look just above sea level. So I'm looking at the corner of the ceiling up there. And as I'm looking at that, I can notice this over here to my side. I can notice that over to my other side. That's defrayed focus. What that does is it changes the brain patterns. There's a critical factor between the conscious and subconscious mind. And that is bridged when you change that visual focus, when you defray it. So that's what allows you to get into that meditative state. And so many people who are so vastly focused and their ADHD and their little mind is going like a little rabbit on a wheel, they're not doing this, they're doing this.
Yeah.
And so to allow them to expand is the physical thing that can help them get
To
there.
become the observer. No, just.
Yeah.
Yeah, and okay, so we talk about the timeline therapy, the Enneagrams, the meditation with Joe Dispenza, which I don't think there's anyone in the world who doesn't like it. What about the numerology or the channeling that you were with this person?
Yeah.
Is it that they connect in some way, or are they different to you?
No, with the numerology thing, I just found it was a really cool time of my life where I found that it was just an interest of mine. And I've always found that in sales, for example, when I started selling houses, that the Chinese would not buy number 4 house, like just
on the number 13 on the building.
They often won't even name it 13. I met a lady who she went to the trouble of having her house number renumbered from 22 to 22A.
Wow.
Because 2 and 2 and A is a 5. 2 and 2 is a 4. No good. 4 means death. It's no good. Whereas 8 is prosperity. And so everyone wants 8.
Yeah, no. Can you explain? I'm new into numerology. I just started to read like a couple of months ago and read about the cycles also as well according to your birth date and it's very accurate. To be honest, can you explain it, or do you know how?
Yeah. So
it works?
there's 2 halves to it. The first half is based on your date of birth, and I call those the stone numbers. They're locked in stone. You were born at this day and this month, and that's not going to change, right? And so the numbers like that you can find patterns within the way that belief set is written that you identify with very, very easily. And some people say it's 30% accurate. Some people say it's 80% accurate, depending on where they're at, what their viewpoint is, and often how it's written as well. But the other half, apart from the dates that you were born, is your name.
Oh yeah, I done that.
And so it's your legal name, and all the letters add up to a number. So it's your first name, your middle name, and your last name all put together. And then there's different subsegments of that with the consonants or the vowels. And that part is fun to play with because you can change your name. And if you change your name, you change the number. If you change the number, you change the outcome. And so that's been fun to play with. I changed my middle name from a numerology standpoint.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Just because of that?
And so it was because I want business success, right? My predominant pattern is business. My focus is business. And I had the opportunity to change something that fundamental that might impact that.
Okay.
And interestingly, I changed my middle name, and now it adds up to an 8, which is prosperity, which is.
I'm 8. I'm
go.
8 everywhere.
Edna.
Yes, I'm Edna. Yeah, Edna.
Rodriguez Garces.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Good.
So what was your middle name before, and what is the new one?
So
He doesn't want to even to pronounce it.
Nobody can pronounce it. Nobody can spell it. It's too hard. But I can tell you what the outcome was, and the outcome was that before in business, I had up to at one stage 14 staff, and I was doing this turnover, lots of busyness. I'm turning over this much money, and it was about the time just after I changed the name when I looked at the numbers again. I realized that I only had 3 of us in the office. I'm turning over the same amount of money and far more profit.
Wow.
So how do you turn over the same amount? How does 3 people turn over the same amount of money as 14?
14, yeah.
And so sometimes I think when you get into the right flow, maybe it's the numerology, maybe it's the other things I've done, maybe it's a mixture of all the things I've done, but it adds up to an easier flow.
Yeah.
And that was, you were asking about the lady on the boat that I did the cruise with. That was Abraham Hicks, and she's all about the law of attraction.
Yeah.
That's about getting into the right vibration, the right flow. And so you're attracting things based on what you are, not what you want, not what you need, not what you push for, but what you are.
Yeah. What and for people that are like very neglecting the manifestation thing, because of, I guess many people are not like into that because of the Secret movie, I guess, and the book. But actually, if you see yourself, your life is the manifestation of what you were before in the past year. So it does exist, and if you want to shift it, you just need to shift who you are, who your what are your emotions and your beliefs. So yeah.
Well, we are about to finish now. So the other question was like, what advice would you give to someone who is listening and is doubting in maybe take one step to start doing some inner healing, or just trying to take one step forward to change their life?
Yeah, the first thing is desire. Maybe awareness, but once you're aware that you have a problem, you're not happy with something, that is the first step, is to be aware that you don't want something. And often the easiest way is to look at the opposite. And that pattern comes along in many different circles of life. There's Warren Buffett's, everyone knows Warren Buffett, he's a famous investor, and his business partner was Charlie Munger. He talks about using the law of the inverse. So in the business world, they talk about the inverse, it's a fancy word for the opposite, right? And so you don't want the chocolate cake. You don't like chocolate cake. You don't want it. You're pushing it away. What is the opposite of chocolate cake? Oh, it's the green beans and broccoli. Oh, okay. I eat that now. I feel better. Okay, good. So often if you're having trouble, you have a problem in life, you're wondering where to start, you're often stuck in the problem. You're stuck in the yuck, in the muck. You're pushing against something. You don't want it. You don't want it. Oh, good. What is the opposite of that? What would the opposite be that would give you the success that you do want? What is that? And then, if you want to take it one step further, where would you be just after that? After the successful completion of what you do want, where would you be and what will you be doing? How good does that feel?
Yeah, going beyond.
Yeah.
This is just having that future emotion that you want, just taking to this present moment.
Yeah,
That's very Joe Dispenza.
He really brainwash you with the meditations, but it does work as well.
Yeah.
Like we also believe in
Just
that.
bring the
and-
emotion to the present moment.
Yes. And the next question: what have you been? What are the biggest challenges, or one of your biggest challenge, and also achievements in all this inner growth and spiritual growth as well? What are the most, or the ones that you remember the most that impacted your life?
A lot of my achievements have been commercial achievements. In the early stages, a lot of it, they've manifested in that way commercially. I was able to be number 3 in the country for my real estate thing very early on, very young, and I was very successful and a lot of money and very busy. But it's not, the money comes and the money goes. But what stays with you is what that makes of you. And so I think that there's a lot of people who give up early and they don't keep doing the thing. Whatever your thing is, the answer is usually do more. Do more of it, because there's a threshold for success. The success does not come day 1 or day 21 or day 2021 necessarily, but there will be a threshold. And when you break through that threshold, it's not the world that changes, it's something in you that changes.
Yeah, it's true.
Keep doing my meditations at night.
Yeah, he was giving me some business advice for my meditation and coaching. Yes, I will do it. And I didn't know that you were too much into business. I knew that you were into self-development and inner growth, but it's amazing because now I'm more getting into business. I was always an employee, and I was trying to get out of this system, but at the same time I was learning about myself, inner growth, self-development, and now I'm in this stage that I want to become a businesswoman. But yes, I have enjoyed every little step, the process. I have enjoyed it so much. But yes, as you said, it's so important not just to think about the final goal or the big thing, but how you are changing through the process, how you're growing. It's amazing. And it's amazing that you did it in that way, because many people do it just because of the ego, no? Because they want to be the best of whatever area or have a lot of money, or but you also did it to grow, to improve yourself. So yes, nice.
Yeah.
So and what were your challenges? The one of your biggest
The biggest challenge, I think, was being able to see the invisible, that thing that was holding me back. How do you find what that is? We all go through a point where we're trying to do something, and there's something that's stopping us. We don't quite know what it is. And being willing to go on a journey and find that was the hardest challenge, to understand what had to happen to do that. And I'm so grateful to the people out there like yourselves that are opening up this world of self-improvement in so many different ways. And all the podcasts out there, the YouTube and the Spotify and all the different places that people are talking about it now. And many times they're talking about the same thing, just in different words, just in different systems, in different methodologies, different ways. But it's the same thing. You've got to go back, and I view it in usually in emotional terms, I view it in, is it a historical issue that is done and complete, or is it a current issue? If it's a current issue, we've got to be willing to feel the pain, feel the anger or the sadness or whatever that is inside us, and sit with it until it goes. Once it goes, it won't create the baggage.
Yeah.
And that's enough. That's good enough.
Yeah, for me, it's so crazy that it's so basic, and at least this generation, we didn't learn how to do it, right? And it's so important. It's basics to function in any area in our lives: love, business, jobs, sports, whatever. It's basic to understand our emotions, to sit with them, to breathe, connect, and they start to.
And then it does its
release.
job. Its entire job is just to bring it to our awareness. And once it can see that we have done that, then they evaporate.
Yeah.
And the job is done.
It's amazing.
But if we don't, then the baggage compiles.
Yeah.
And we can become angry, unhappy people, and all the unhealthy stuff comes out. You know?
Yeah. Do you have any more questions
on my side?
Yeah, it's amazing. I don't have. I'm very impressed, to be honest, because I knew some part of you, but I know now I'm going to get more in touch about the business stuff from the inner growth perspective, which I find amazing, as I said. So yes, thank you so much.
I'm very grateful to you.
Thank you, James, for being here.
And thank you, everyone. Thank you, all our listeners. And let us know if you have any questions about all the topics that we talk about, all the interesting tools that James has used to learn more about himself. Thank you.
Thank you.
See you.
Bye.